husband and myself, and Al and Brenda. And I thought that what I wanted to do was to share a couple of moments in our lives with Jamie. Wait a minute, Don, let me finish. That capture the quintessential Jamie. And the first is a moment which is Jamie in her own words. David and I guess we'd been together about a year, and the one thing that I had come to learn about my husband was that he has no true north, and he will be the first to tell you that he has no sense of direction, and it's probably the only thing in the world that he doesn't do well. So we've had many adventures trying to get back home. He says, like Winnie the Pooh himself, many explorers.
I think it was about solidarity.
Wait a minute, darling. Hang on a minute. So on this particular day, Jamie and David and I were in downtown Oakland, and I think I was not charmed by David's lack of sense of direction, and as we headed home, I suddenly noticed we were hard on the Bay Bridge. So I apparently said to David very testily, "You're going the wrong way." And out of the back seat came my clear-headed daughter, and she said to me, no less testily, "Mother, David is not going in the wrong way. He's going a different way." I love that about Jamie, because although I stood corrected, it's Jamie's love for David, and it's also her generosity of spirit, that she wasn't going to criticize David, and I love that. And the second moment is in David's words, his vision of Jamie. As David got sicker with Parkinson's, he fell very often, and one evening he got up and he was apparently half asleep, and he went from the bedroom toward the bathroom, and I heard him fall. And there was this terrific crash, and down he went. And I leaned over him and I said, "Listen, give me a minute to think. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can get you up. I don't know if I have to call 911. I'm not sure what to do." And pretty soon it was obvious that I wasn't going to be able to get him up, and so I leaned over again and I said, "Darling, I have to call 911. We need help." And he kind of opened up a sleepy eye and he said to me, "No, call Jamie. She'll figure out what to do." And I thought that was wonderful, because David gets Jamie. If you want something done, you call Jamie, and she figures it out.
Go down there.
One sec. And the final story that I want to share is something that happened in my life about 50 years ago today. About 12 hours before Jamie was born.
I think it is.
Wait. And for reasons that I don't remember anymore, Al and I found ourselves without a car. And in LA, to be without a car is obviously deadly. And so it was arranged that I was to go to his parents' house and borrow his father's car. And the key was under the doormat, and the car would be in the garage. So I got to my in-laws' house, and they weren't there, but the key, in fact, was under the doormat, and the car was in front. And I remember, this is so clear to me, it's hard to believe it's 50 years. I mean, I remember thinking, "Well, that's very sweet of my father-in-law," because I was heavy with child, 12 hours short of Jamie's birth, and I could not have gotten into the car, turned myself and my belly around, and negotiated the driveway. So I got into the car, and the first thing I noticed, and I was completely amazed, was that in contrast to my in-laws' house, which was always Architectural Digest perfect, this car was a mess. And in the back were newspapers, the ashtray was full of cigarette butts, sweaters were on the floor, and I suddenly thought, "Isn't this wonderful? I have this secret. I now know something about my father-in-law that I never knew. He is rebelling against his wife's neatness. This car cherish this fantasy all the way home. Got back to the little cottage that we were sharing, parked the car in the driveway, and I went in the house. And sometime in the next hour or two, Al turned to me and he said, "Someone's parked in our driveway." I said, "No, it's me. I parked in the driveway. That's your dad's car." And he said, "That's not my dad's car." Sure, I was testy, and I said, "Don't be ridiculous. I drove here. It's my dad's car." And Al went out, and he came back in, and he said, "That is definitely not my dad's car." He called his mother, and his mother told him that, in fact, this car belonged to somebody else on the street. And I'm not sure if they had reported it stolen or they hadn't, but the car had to be returned, the car that did not belong to his dad. And I tell you that story because I think that for a woman who was born from a car thief, you have turned out wonderfully, darling. I salute
Where'd you get the key from?
Under the doormat. It was.
The neighbor left his.
No, I think it was the same model. Or it was one of those, I jiggled and
Wow.
a misspent youth.
She's a car thief.
That's right.
A woman of
Well, I thought I'd go at my toast just a little differently. Thank you, Jackie, for mentioning that you were going to give a toast so that I could spend on 15 minutes preparing this. I don't have any slides, so but I thought it would be interesting to trace Jamie's history a little bit over the 50 years and bring into some of the bring the family in as they actually the time they came into this situation. So we know that Jamie was born 50 years ago with a wonderful time. We were actually at a Thanksgiving dinner in Los Angeles in the Cheviot Hills, which was, I believe, where Lenny and Elaine, Uncle Lenny and Andy Lane, my sister and brother-in-law were staying. And Jackie went into labor. And so we jumped into the car and we went off. It was about a 20-minute drive at least to Cedars Hospital. And when we got there, and of course, when we left, everybody, there were about 20 people coming in for Thanksgiving. Everybody kissed us and kissed Jackie and wished us well, and off we went across Los Angeles. When we got to Cedars Hospital, they said, "She's not in labor. This is false contractions." So what do? We're hungry. Okay? So we went back to the Thanksgiving dinner. You can imagine the reception when we came back. And later that night, and we went back to the hospital, and you were born. So that's where Uncle Lenny and Auntie Lane, and Elaine is now deceased, came into play. A couple of years later, obviously, Steve came into play, and so he entered into the fray. Now, I thought it would be interesting, and you can't trace everything, so I tried to put this together based upon the schools that you actually went to. So, as I remember it, and I can be corrected I would appreciate corrections, you, and excuse me, Brenda, but this is a very useful tool.
It's okay.
The first school that you went to was with Catherine Burke's school in San Francisco. And that was a very she school. It was, for the upper class, essentially. And Jamie actually, well, let me just say this. This is what they say today. At Burke's, we educate, encourage, and empower our girls to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, and doers. As part of our community, your daughter will find the knowledge, skill, and confidence she needs to be successful and achieve her personal best. Our outstanding faculty and staff are committed to educating both the mind and the heart, containing a rigorous curriculum